I feel like as a huge Yoko Taro fan, this video has been long overdue. I have been a fan of this guy's games ever since the very first Drakengard game on the PS2. Every time I see a dying dragon in a game, I just hear the words Caim over and over repeatedly in my head. Although, admittedly, maybe that's a little bit more info than you probably needed. Regardless, when I heard that Yoko Taro was making a brand new game, in specific SINoALICE, I was excited because I was genuinely curious what type of game would come from his creative genius. And here I am today taking a sponsored look at the very game in question, which I'm gonna admit here is actually pretty cool. So yeah, I would like to go ahead here and thank the people behind SINoALICE for not only sponsoring this video, but for making such a dark, interesting game for me to go ahead here and burn some time in. If you're interested in trying SINoALICE out, I urge you to go ahead and click that link in the description and the pinned comment below to be taken directly to the game. So, SINoALICE is a very interesting game. At its core, it is an RPG. The game features a very dark, very deep storyline with a focus on various different heroes. You have Alice, Snow White, Cinderella, Gretel, Sleeping Beauty, Red Riding Hood, Princess Kaguya, and Pinocchio. Now, if you have watched any video of mine pretty much ever, you would know that I am a huge fan of story in my games. I've said this over and over again in literally every video I've ever done. If a story is not engaging to me, then I am not going to enjoy the game. Now, as this is in fact a Japanese RPG, you can expect that this is going to have a very large focus on story. Thankfully, each character in specific actually has their very own unique playable story. Every character has their own individual introduction to the story, with the very first chapter involving them and several chapters after their introduction intertwining with other characters. Okay, if that didn't make a whole lot of sense to you, then no problem. As an example, both Alice and Snow White have separate first and second chapters, but their third chapter requires both of them together, whereas Snow White and Cinderella actually share fourth chapters. This provides a very interesting character dynamic that I never expected, with characters each individually influencing and interacting with one another. While each character's story has a definitive focus on the character whose story you're actually playing through, you're not forced to play as that character in specific if you don't want to. Instead, you can go ahead and play as any character you want, which goes a ways to providing a sense of freedom. Speaking of characters though, you're probably wondering how this game actually plays, right? So each character, let's use Snow White here as an example, has their own unique class. Each class has their own individual weapons that they can equip, with Snow White in particular having a specialty in swords but being able to use great hammers, bows, and spears. When engaging in combat, your character will have a selection of different weapons that you can equip in advance, with each weapon having their own elemental affinity. These elemental attributes come into play during combat as every enemy has their own element, which in turn leaves them susceptible to specific weapon combinations. I had actually went ahead here and equipped a lot of fire weapons on Snow White, which admittedly, you know, in retrospect was probably ill-advised because it left me, I don't know, I guess without any type of real counter to water enemies. So I guess in the grand scheme of things here, what I'm trying to say is do as I say and not as I do. As while I do know what I am talking about, at the same time, I am an idiot and I forget pretty much everything that I've learned as soon as I go about getting in game. Battles, which the majority of the game takes place in, are, well, both your allies and the enemies are situated on opposite sides of the field, and you take turns smacking each other with abilities until one side emerges victorious. At the end of some of the battles, you're greeted by large, powerful boss monsters that end the missions or the chapter you're currently progressing through. As noted, while the bulk of the game consists of both the story and the individual chapters and battles, that is not everything that there is to the game. At a certain point, you're actually capable of either creating or joining a guild and participating in various new activities. I was tempted to create a guild, seriously, I was. I feel like I have the makings of a great leader, but at the same time, I have this weird, like, nagging little feeling that I would probably lead you all to your deaths, and then you guys would subsequently blame me for that, and I don't want that on my conscience. So I opted to instead go about looking to join a guild as opposed to making one. I saw one with only 11 members, and I figured that I would go ahead and apply. Worst case scenario, they actually accept me and expect me to be capable of doing things. So I joined the guild, and then I gained access to the Colosseum. Our guild actually, interestingly enough here, had a positive win rate, 2-0, which surprised me a little bit. So at least there's that. As mentioned earlier, I have always enjoyed Yoko Taro's games. I think this guy does an incredible job at creating dark, atmospheric stories, worlds to live in and explore. SINoALICE is no different to that. Yes, this game is on mobile devices, but at the same time, there are unique occasions where mobile games are just really damn good and worth the time you invest into them. SINoALICE is not only a deep, compelling game with a lot of story to read through, but it features beautiful backdrops for the battles, fantastic looking character models, and offers an interesting, dark new twist on stories that you thought you knew. This is a game that I had recommended in the past for players that were looking for something new and exciting to play. Honestly, this game looked like a lot of fun. And if given the opportunity to recommend a game again, then, I mean, hello, I would go about recommending this all over again, especially having played through it much more than I originally had. This is an RPG that I think I could invest time into and subsequently waste my days in working to complete the story provided. Do note though that this is not your typical kids game. This is a game that is targeted at a much older audience, thus why it comes with an M rating, and it definitely shows. I am a huge fan of darker games, more adult games that aren't all lighthearted, so this was right up my alley. But I mean, don't take my word for it. Again, if you're interested in trying SINoALICE out, you can simply by clicking that link in the description of the pinned comment below. Not only will it support me, but it will also take you directly to the game. But this is my opinion, my impressions of the game. What do you guys think? Does it look like something that you're interested in? Or heck, do you even play it? Or have you already played it? Let me know down in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys next time.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it. Yeah, all hard work's gonna be worth it. Ooh.